What's up, guys? Today Sports Central will be going over a college football game preview. This one's going to be over Oklahoma and Texas. Both of these teams looking great coming into this game, as Oklahoma is ranked 6th and Texas is number 11 currently right now. Oklahoma is undefeated right now. They played Kansas last week and beat them 45-20. It's a little bit questionable there. You don't really want to allow 20 points to Kansas. And it was kind of a slow game as well there early on. Oklahoma was able to pull away there in the end, which they did end up beating them by a good 25. Jalen Hurts was 16 for 24, 228 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. And overall, I mean, those are some pretty good stats. He was pretty accurate. We've seen that a lot this season. And so I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a force to be reckoned with there for Texas coming up into this game. Texas beat West Virginia 42-31. They had R. Johnson, who had 21 attempts for 121 yards in their win there against West Virginia. I mean, you could kind of say the same thing about Oklahoma and Kansas, and how, I mean, Texas, they should not have allowed West Virginia to score 31 points on them. And I understand it's the Big 12, and we're bound to see high-scoring games, but of course, it's West Virginia. You should not be allowing 31 points no matter what. And so I don't think that's going to be very helpful to Texas as we go on through the rest of the season if they're allowing their Big 12 opponents that many points. With that being said, this game is going to be on the 12th, this Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time. Spread currently says Oklahoma by 9.5. And of course, this is being recorded on Monday, so these are kind of opening spreads right now, and this will very likely change over the course of the week. ESPN FPI is saying Oklahoma 79%, and Vegas is also saying Oklahoma 46-35 in this one. So all three of these are saying in a high-scoring game, Oklahoma wins it by about 10 points or so. Here's your stat comparison for this one. Oklahoma, 53 points per game right now throughout the past 6 weeks. That is insane to have a 53-point average for their games. They have allowed 19 points per game. So overall, I mean, in the Big 12, that is pretty good. Pass yards per game, 355. Rush yards per game, 288. So offensively, this team is excellent. It looks like they're almost getting about 500 yards per game right now. Of course, I mean, Oklahoma really hasn't played anyone all that good quite yet. This is their first pretty tough opponent. Still offensively, this team is excellent. 346 yards are allowed per game. So overall, I mean, that's not a very good stat. But Texas is kind of defensively not looking very good at all. They've got 41 points per game, but 26 points allowed per game. You do not want that, especially that's just looking at the first 5 games. And so for the first 5 games, you should expect to have a points allowed per game at least under 20, especially with how you're not really playing all that difficult of teams at that point in the season. And so 26 points allowed per game at this point in the year is kind of something a little bit to be concerned about for Texas going on throughout the rest of the year. 308 pass yards per game. Of course, Sam Ehlinger, he is excellent. That's bound to happen. 175 rush yards per game for this team as well. They have allowed 441 yards per game so far this season. That is ridiculous. You cannot allow 400 yards against like Group of 5 conference teams and expect to win. That just doesn't happen going on through the rest of the season. And so that's a little bit of a concerning part for this Texas team. But of course, they do have this game at home. And so you will have to consider that one as well. Here's your last 5 games for both these teams. Oklahoma played Kansas last week. Once again, 45-20, they won that one. And they beat Texas Tech the week prior, UCLA, South Dakota, and Houston. So really that schedule isn't all that difficult for Oklahoma. They have played a Group of 5, or one of the better Group of 5 conference teams in Houston. But then again, that win now doesn't look very good at all. South Dakota, 70-14. Pretty much bound to happen. UCLA, of course, is like 1-5 right now, so 48-14 is reasonable. Texas Tech, that's a pretty good one considering Texas Tech upset Oklahoma State this week, 55-16. So that's definitely probably one of their better wins there for sure. But Texas, on the other hand, beat West Virginia 42-31. They had a close one to Oklahoma State, 36-30. They beat Rice 48-13, lost to LSU 45-38, and then beat Louisiana Tech handily 45-14. Now looking at a few key points, is this a preview of this year's Big 12 championship game? I think it definitely could be. I don't really see any other Big 12 teams other than these 2 teams making it this season. Iowa State, I thought, could contend for it. They're not looking very good right now. We're talking maybe Baylor at this point in the year. I mean, Oklahoma State's kind of blown it with their loss against Texas Tech. They're not looking all that great. So yeah, kind of looking into the rest of the season, I think these two teams are pretty much bound to make the Big 12 championship unless one of them flops. But yeah, how important is this game? I think it is very important. I mean, especially for a college football playoff resume once we get to the later part of the season. I mean, you want to have an undefeated record going into the Big 12 championship game if you're going to make the playoff. Both offenses here are excellent as expected, but how would both teams win? I think if Oklahoma can go in and get a few points up on the board early on, have a good defense, have an improved defense here against Texas. I mean, that's what Texas needs to do as well. They need to have a defense in this game if they're going to win. I mean, Oklahoma's got Jalen Hurts. They've got excellent offense. You cannot have a poor defense against this Oklahoma team, or else you're going to get blown out pretty easily. With that being said, here's my prediction for this one. I think we're going to see a high-scoring shootout here. 27-24 is going to be your halftime score. Texas leads. I think Texas hangs on early on, but I think in the final, Oklahoma pulls away. They win this one 52-41. And so I do expect it to be a very high-scoring one, 93 points in total between both of these teams here in this one. But honestly, in Big 12 games, this is pretty common to see these crazy high-scoring games like this. And I mean, I'm not sure if Texas is going to be able to have a good enough defense here in order to hold back Oklahoma's stellar offense. But nonetheless, thank you guys all for watching. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this game in the comments below. Do you think Texas can pull an upset? I mean, I totally think it could happen. I mean, it is in Texas, and so that's going to be very helpful to this Texas team and possibly pulling off an upset. But then again, Oklahoma, I think, is a much more talented team this season. Texas is still, don't get me wrong, a very great team. But yeah, Oklahoma, I think, is a better team here in this situation. Yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Be sure to show some support if you'd like to. If you'd subscribe, that would be really awesome. I'd really appreciate everyone that does that. Once again, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more college football previews and analysis for Week 7. I will see you all later.